So, Emily, thanks for taking the time today. I know these past few weeks haven't been that easy, and in my experience, it's always harder the longer something goes unaddressed. I know you feel the exact same way. Tell me about the radio silence on social media and so forth. And was there a particular reason um, for it, or were you just kind of struggling to find the words with everything that's going on and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, first I really want to apologize for the radio silence. Um, there's been a lot of you that have been messaging me, through social media and personal messages. So I just want to let you know that I am okay and that I'm good actually. Um, I I definitely struggled to find the right message and the words to convey how I felt through the first few weeks and um, yeah, I mean, just thinking of everybody around the world and what everyone is going through is really difficult in my own preparations, taking a sideways turn so quickly and just trying to understand what is happening and how we're all being affected because we're all being affected, but some are at different masses and I don't know. I just have a heavy heart for all the Italians and the Spanish going through their extreme experiences and and really just doing our part. I pretty much was in isolation personally for 3 or 4 weeks before the government in the U.S. because I was in California at the time. Um, enforced the lockdown. So after that couple weeks of just not feeling settled, it was only right to drive home and put our whole entire preparation for the season on hold. And I just want the world to know that I'm thinking of all the people affected by the virus and the economic lockdown because it's tough and these really are the times that we need each other and I apologize for my absence.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know this hasn't been easy for you either. So take me back to your early season plans before all this happened. Like, what did that look like? I know, you started ending 2019 a little differently. Like, we made a pretty solid plan there. You know, racing in January, February, like that's all new to you too. Like, tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So um, last year was just like this crazy weird year for me. Um, coming off such a high in 18 and being on the podium every every World Cup, World Championships overall, it was fabulous. And I had every intention of going into 19 with that. And taking that big step backwards was just it was just so unfamiliar territory for me personally. And so Adam and I, we went back to the drawing board and we just restructured our whole winter and our whole spring. And by spring, I mean like January. So typically I wouldn't have been racing, until late April, in the early spring races in California. So we did things totally different. I did have a lot of UCI points to be making up, which is why I went to Spain and did those early season stage races, which were a brand new, fresh experience. My brother Mark came over for as support and my mechanic, and we did a bunch of stage racing. It was all new to both of us. I had a blast, and we collected a lot of points, actually, enough to get back into the top 40, so that I could start checks short track, which is one of the main goals, and just to get back into the competitive UCA ranking positions. So yeah, there was, that was, January and February. And then my plan was to be pretty much in the US right through to May. Adam and I, we've had, we had multiple technical training camps planned, a few at altitude. We were going to be in Sedona, Moab, Prescott. We had a pretty solid plan. And yeah, like pretty much from mid-February, it just went sideways really fast. So it's been tough.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so those early season races, was that all in hopes to qualify for Tokyo 2020?
I mean, yes and no. Like, for sure, I just, if I can get back to the racer, which I had already proved to myself in January, I was already back to where I want it to be. And it was more just to gain points to get back into the top 40 so that I could race the short track. But it was also to build that like race, like intensity early. We did a stage race in Spain where it was just like, 4 days of like road racing, but on dirt. So there's so many skills that I had developed through those early plans that I was really excited to see, because I felt the form, like I felt confident with where I was at. And so yes, chasing points. Ultimately, Tokyo 2020 was for sure the goal, and now 2021. So it's going to be the same, I think, going forward. It's just this weird acknowledgement of the postpone of 12 months. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, so, we can certainly get to more on the Olympics, but, I know firsthand, so you basically after Cyprus, you ended up getting sick, and I know you had a great team camp with Trek Factory Racing. You and Evie crushed the Cyprus stage race.
Yeah.
Came third overall despite being sick. Tell me a little bit about what happened next. Like, you returned to California, and then what happened?
Yeah, so after the 2 4-day stage races, we had our Trek team camp, which went really well. And I knew I was pushing that line, like when we were planning our schedule, like we were pushing a line of, is it too much? Is it like, recovery? Like it was a borderline. But if it was done properly, if recovery was executed like perfect, then it should have been okay. But team camp went great. And then Evie and I did a duo stage race, which I was so excited for. And on day one, actually, I had like a sore throat, and like we all can relate. When you feel it coming in and you're in denial, and you're like, just put it to the back of your mind. So I went through all these like phases day one of the stage race, and then of course racing in itself is just gonna emphasize any illness that's on its way in, and it brings it a lot faster. So from basically day 2 on, poor Evie, like we were racing together, and she was amazing, like the best partner I could ever ask. And I look forward to the day we get to race again together. But I was sick. She knew I was sick. I was not performing well, and it became like the survival game. We'd traveled all that way. We had, T for our soigneur and Alvaro for our mechanic there, and we were there for points as well and for that training. So I didn't want to give up. Like I was like, well, there's a big enough gap after the Cyprus stage race that I can recover from. So I raced anyways, and did a few Trek visits and met a whole bunch of new people, and it was fabulous, but it was just too much. And so actually when I got back to California, poor Adam had to put up with my coughing, which then turned into, no, you have to go to the ER. Like you enforced me to go to the ER. So we did, and we sat amongst everyone in the hospital, and that was the day before actually that they listed Spain as a priority lockdown country of risk to be testing for this COVID-19. And we actually went there with the intention, Adam was adamant that I got the test, and they wouldn't give it to me just yet because it wasn't on the list of priority countries having traveled from. So they wouldn't test me. They diagnosed it as pneumonia. Obviously, racing ill is probably the worst thing you can do. So I spent like the next, I kid you not, 4 weeks trying to recover from this chest infection and pneumonia, and was on antibiotics and on and off. And yeah, it was just this weird last month and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there was a lot there. Like, so really busy race schedule, team camp, all those things were going on. Kind of this thing that was festering in the background was this COVID-19 thing that we, at the time it wasn't really, I guess, that bad. Maybe in places it was, but it wasn't really even in the media that much at that point in time. And then I guess when you got back to California, then it really started ratcheting up. I guess UCI froze the point system, all the races got canned. Like, tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, we've never experienced anything like this. I mean, maybe you've heard of a race being, postponed a few hours if it was lightning out, but we've never heard of such a thing. And it's weird to think of, your own situation and the races being canceled and everything, but on a bigger scale, it's hard not to ignore, the much bigger situation going on. Like, people are dying and people are losing families and people are losing work. And I definitely went through this weird phase of in denial and like so positive. Like, I'm a very naturally positive person, so I was very happy and like, oh, it'll pass and it's okay. Like, okay, they're going to postpone this one race, but we'll be back to. I was one of those people, very positive, very trying to like be passive with it and not ignore it, not be naive to the situation, but just be positive. And then everything like globally started shutting down, and then it really hit. And like, my mom's health is like, I mean, she's a cancer survivor of 15 years. And then as soon as you relate it to your family, that's when it's like, no, holy crap, this is a pandemic and we need to take this extremely seriously, and we all have to take our roles. And so I just got lost in this phase of taking it, not serious at first. I wasn't going anywhere. I was very, Adam and I have our RV in California while he was running the Durham Shredders train like a pro camp. So he was busy doing that, and I was isolated already, and I already wasn't going into stores. I was taking that part very seriously, but just hoping that things would evolve back to normal quickly. And, when they started shutting races down, that's when it really started to hit. And then, bringing illness home to family is like the worst thing. So it was just this bizarre phase of, denial and being positive and it'll be okay. And then like, holy crap, this is affecting everyone. And then we need to do our part,
Yeah, definitely. It became real in the coming weeks for sure. And now it seems like it's more real than ever. And even with them postponing the Olympics, and like, how is that affecting all of your plans? Like, and we had plans to like train in Moab and Sedona, like you said. Like,
Yeah.
how does, like, what happens next?
Well, our 2 Welsh Terriers are cruising around below me, so if you hear some ruckus, it's just them sniffing for goodies on the ground. But yeah, I mean, when the Olympics was postponed, let me go back a couple weeks. The UCI put out an announcement saying that they were freezing the point collection for the Olympic qualification, which meant our only final qualifier in 2020 was no longer possible. And I was alone for that few days, and
yeah, it was tough, right?
Yeah.
I know you had like a lot riding on that race, and we had kind of positioned going back to November, like our entire year around that one qualifier.
Exactly, we did.
And it got canned, and there was no what happens next. It was just like, it's canceled and nothing.
Yeah, we were kind of in limbo like for the longest time, and yeah, when they canceled Czech, I was like everything was, the whole season was, the whole winter, the whole spring, everything was shaped around performing. Like, it was, you can peak twice. Like, I was peaking at Czech and I was getting a top 3. Like, I did not care. Like, that's what my, past 6 months revolved around. And then they just, canceled. I know they have to do something and they have to give people answers, but they canceled it. And it was like, they canceled it with no, like, well, here's what we're going to do. Or like, it was just canceled and then like a radio silence for multiple days. And so that was tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I guess we changed plans. Obviously, we had to. We tried doing some stuff in Sedona and carrying on, but as things got worse in the U.S., things didn't feel right at all whatsoever. So we ended up packing up and and driving back to Canada. Now we're home.
Yeah.
Did we restructure the plan, or not really? Like there were
No.
so many things going on. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely tried. Like on our way home, we, we're like, okay, well, let's at least do a weekend in Sedona, and we stopped for a day, and it was still early enough. Not everything was. It was still early enough in the whole phase that I felt like we could have, stayed and executed a bit of our plan, or just, cut it into 50% of the plan, or. So we tried, but it felt wrong. I felt so unsettled being there. And as much as I wanted to be in Sedona, trust me, like, holy crap. Yeah, the plan was to just carry on, get home, get back into Canada, get back and be in our home and do the proper procedure that we all had to follow and be isolated for 14 days. But knowing that I had already been isolated. I didn't even go in the gas stations on the way home because we drove from California back to Canada. It was pretty much, I walked the dogs, Adam, paid at the pump, and that was it. Like, we had the RV, like I said, so we were already well into quarantine, and it was just a matter of getting home and kind of get settled. So no, we didn't really restructure anything. I was still kind of recovering from being ill, and yeah, I just think with the weeks going on, it's just more things are canceled, and the death rate's going up, and the, just, I don't know, like, I feel so helpless not being able to help those places that are in extreme crisis. Like, we're all trying to do our part, and I know that's all we really can do at home. But yeah, I just feel like there's so much more I wish I could do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, right now, I think the best thing we can all do is just follow the government guidelines and physical distance ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and really that's all we can do at the moment. Tell me, I know it was hard coming home, and certainly no one's really healed from all of this yet. I think there's more follow-up to come, but you listened to your body when you got home. We basically just stopped training. Like, there was a few weeks there where we thought, like, keep calm, carry on, train as though things are normal.
For sure.
Maybe in a few weeks we'll get the green light to keep racing. But, looking back at it, taking all that time off, maybe that was the right move.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to take time off as an athlete when you feel like you've made that progression, because you kind of fear well, I've done this and I've got to here, and if I let up, then I'm just going to go backward. But having been sick and then traveling across the country and trying to recover from the most racing I've done, like, in one condensed block ever. Our little Welsh is climbing up stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it was just a matter of trying to carry on with what was normal, and then, that phase of, like, you don't really know what you're training for. We've all gone through that. Like, every athlete, we've all gone through that, and nobody's above one another in this scenario. Like, we're all in this, and, like, there's not answers for anybody, and we don't know if we're going to be racing in June or July or even August. I feel like, being realistic, probably not until September. And then it's like, how do you, these are things in my mind, like, how do you start back up the point system if half the country, or sorry, not country, the world is on lockdown, and then they're opening up countries and borders in other places. Like, how does this work? Like, nobody knows. So I'm literally as frustrated and, in the dark as everyone else, and but still being positive and doing things at home that I've not ever done before, like renovating my whole entire kitchen. Obviously stuff that I have at home, so painting has been huge, and just doing, things to try to stay normal and get through the time.
Yeah, I'm, I've been coaching for quite some time, and I'm a firm believer that what your mind says, or what physically your body is doing, it always knows best. And
Yeah.
I think it's great that you listen, or are listening to it during this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess based on the info we have today, like, how do you foresee all
I mean, how do I see it for playing? I don't know how it's going to play out. I know as much as the next household, and I have access to the same websites as everyone else, and I think we all like desperately need to rely on each other, and I think that's why this has been so hard to eventually get to filming, is because I've felt that guilt of wanting to share my feelings for how I feel about everybody in the world, and not addressing it early has just got worse and worse. And yeah, I mean, I want health to be everyone's priority, and then and then slowly trickle back to normal. But I mean, if we get to race it all this year, I'll be super happy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess one last piece of advice for anyone that's watching or reading.
One last piece of advice.
Yeah.
I think to be negative is a very, very it's this very sticky energy. It's a very heavy energy. If I have negative in my life, I feel like it wears me down, it slows me down, it keeps my mind clouded. So look for the positive stuff. Like, look for people doing live stuff on Instagram and social media, and do stuff that you've not had a chance to otherwise do, and just cherish the family moments as much as you can. Like, the silver lining literally is that you get to focus on you and your family more than ever. There's never been a time in our lives that we've had this opportunity, I suppose, if you want to look at it as an opportunity, to spend time with your loved ones, like you're in your house, of course. And I think just look to people, call people, FaceTime people. I'm huge with social, so even though I've not personally been putting stuff out, I'm personally depending on other people's positive stuff online and seeing what people are up to. So I really encourage you to just reach out and call people. Know that you're not alone. We're the entire globe is in this situation together. No one's above anyone, and I just want to thank people for messaging me personally. And if I didn't get back to you, let's definitely connect again. And I'm excited to share stuff that we've tried to fill our time with. And I look forward to hearing what more people are doing to fill their time and stay positive.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time today. I know this hasn't really been that easy. It's been some time, and hopefully things get back to normal sooner than later. Although our new normal will be a little bit different.
A little bit different.
For sure.
Yeah.
But thanks for your time.
I guess at the end of it all, not all countries and cities can be outside just yet, but I don't know, like if you get a minute to be out on your bike, like enjoy every second of it, because you never know what to expect coming down the road. And just be positive.